Hello everybody, and welcome to another video. In Anton Blast, I'm supposed to blast my way through every level and destroy everything in my path to get back Anton's spirit collection from Satan. This causes a lot of casualties though, so I'm going to be trying to beat this game without killing any enemies. Before we start, we of course have to go over the rules. 1. I can't kill enemies. 2. If I kill an enemy, I have to reload the last checkpoint. 3. If an enemy kills itself, that's fine. 4. If me pressing absolutely nothing kills an enemy, it does not count. For example, an enemy walking into me. Also, one last thing before we start. You might see my maximum health change occasionally, specifically in Slow Rose Sewers and Mad Mall. The extra health was not required for those levels, I just came back and redid those levels later on. With the rules out of the way, let's start the game. The first level of the game is Boiler City, and it's a pretty open area. This level doesn't have any real gimmicks, since it functions as a tutorial on how the game controls. The main three types of movement are bounces, dashes, and slides. Bouncing is very obvious in what it does. If I jump, I can bounce up with my hammer, but this also makes everything I touch get destroyed. Dashing is gaining a boost of speed to destroy stuff in front of me, and sliding lets me get through small quarters. But once I'm sliding in a small area, I can't stop until I get out of the small area. After a while of running through the level, I get to the end and land on a big switch, starting Happy Hour. Happy Hour starts a timer. The exact amount of time varies between each level, and during this time, I have to run as fast as I can back to the start. Thankfully, there aren't too many enemies in the way, and I beat it very quickly, letting me go into Brulo's Bar. Brulo's Bar acts as both a hub area that I can enter other levels from, as well as an upgrade shop, where I can buy stuff from Brulo. After a quick chat with Brulo, I head off to the second level. Slow Rose Sewer starts off fairly easily. There are a few areas I have to slide through, so I have to make sure that there aren't any moles on the other side when I do. Not very far into the level though, it introduces a pretty nasty gimmick. Every once in a while, I'll have to ride sharks to progress. The first shark segment is really easy. Just take the top route to avoid everything. The second shark segment was more annoying though. I have to wait for a bunch of enemies to slowly walk off an edge into some water so I can go up without killing them, since just touching an enemy will kill them. After this, the level is pretty straightforward again until Happy Hour starts. The second room of Happy Hour already is a problem. Halfway through it, I'm forced to ride a shark into a really small hallway filled with moles. I can't just jump over them because I'll bonk into the roof and bounce back into them. The best I could do was beat this area by killing 10 of the moles. Technically, these moles shouldn't count according to the rules, since I don't have to press anything for them to die, but I feel like I have too much potential control for that to be fair. The next room has some more enemies, but since there is no ceiling, I can jump over them and escape this level. Returning to Brulo's Bar, the first mini-boss opens up, the Brawl Buster. This boss doesn't have any minions for me to accidentally kill, so I can just fight it like normal. It doesn't even die after beating it up, so I don't have to add a single kill here. After this, the third level, Cinnamon Springs, opens up. The gimmick of this level is the Tornado Spin. When I step on certain platforms, I'll spin, and the only options I have are to spin faster, making me move faster and pull objects towards me, or to jump. The problem is that the Tornado Spin is required to break certain blocks in the way. The first of these segments I solved by running into a wall, increasing my speed to get the enemy to fall off the ledge, and then jumping over it as I passed by it. The second part of this room, I have to immediately jump over another enemy, and by this point, my spin will have run out. Then, I wait for the enemy to walk away, and use another Tornado Spin to pull an enemy down, and then jump over it, letting me escape the room. The next room isn't very great either. The room starts with another Tornado Spin, but if I don't spin faster and avoid the second Tornado Spin block, I won't kill anything. Then, I can bounce off an enemy, which doesn't kill it, and then get over the big gap. The next Tornado Spin only has one enemy in the way that I can either jump over, or wait for it to walk off a ledge. The next few rooms are a break again, but I have to eventually run into another Tornado Spin, and that I did. This one requires a bit more setup than all the others. First, I have to lead the enemy away. Once it's led into the corner, just wait a little bit and jump backwards onto the tornado spin block. Then just jump over the last enemy and spin through the blocks. Then jump over one final enemy on the other side of the blocks. After this, the rest of the way to Happy Hour is pretty easy. During Happy Hour, there's this pit with a ton of enemies in it. They get launched away from a single touch, and I think they're already dead. Probably. But they wouldn't count even if they were. The first tornado spin only has a single enemy during it, and all I have to do is wait it out. The second tornado spin only has 2 enemies at the very end I can jump over. The rest of the level doesn't have any more tornado spins, so that's the level done with no kills. The next level is the Bomb Candy Mines. This level's gimmick is bombs, which I can hit around. They're really easy to use without killing things. Just make sure there aren't enemies near the walls I'm going to destroy, and launch it over there. The other big gimmick is turning it into a bomb. The enemies can't die as long as I don't use explosions near them, but if I touch the blocks at the end, I'll automatically explode. So I have to wait for the enemies to move away, but it's not that big of a deal. The one other thing this level introduces is a new enemy. It's a bomb lizard that climbs on walls. It will blow itself up to try and hurt me. Since I had no part in that though, it won't count towards the kill count. There is only one mildly difficult room on the way to Happy Hour. It was this room with an 8-ball and 2 enemies. I'm supposed to get the 8-ball to the very right of the room, but if I do that, it'll crush the enemies. So I have to wait for the enemies to walk into the lava before I can finally move the 8-ball. Eventually I make it to Happy Hour, and lava starts to follow me through each room. There aren't too many enemies in the way, thankfully, so as long as I'm careful and quick, I can escape easily. Returning to Brulo's bar, the first big boss opens up, Ghoul. Ghoul is surprisingly easy. I just have to bounce into his face to damage him. I do have to make sure to stay away from his minions so I don't accidentally kill them, but that's not too bad. Ghoul has a few attacks, but they're easy to dodge. He has one attack where he uses a cigar, which gets rid of his minions for me, which is great. I managed to beat his first phase on the first try, and moved on to the second phase. The second phase doesn't have any minions, so I can just wail on him until he's defeated. He surprisingly doesn't die from me blasting his face off, so this fight has no kills. Returning to Brulo's bar, the east wing of the building is fully completed, and Brulo has a new item in stock. It's actually one permanent health upgrade, which I can afford fairly easily, letting me have a maximum of 4 health now. Going into the west wing of Brulo's bar, a brand new level is opened up, the Big Bath. The Big Bath is a big pool where nothing really makes sense. Pathways will change as you move through them, and doors will take you into the same room. The difficulty of this level doesn't come from the maze-like structure of the level, it comes from the torpedo sections. During these parts, I am forced to weave my way through enemies to open up new pathways. The first of these segments is in a hallway with a bunch of enemies swimming in circles. It would be almost impossible to dodge all of them, so I have a solution for that. There are some mines in the water, so what if I happen to get hurt by one when an enemy would just happen to be close to me? So anyways, a bunch of them just happened to die for some reason. Not sure why. Since the horde of enemies is much thinner now, it's not nearly as difficult to open up the path now. The second torpedo isn't nearly as nice kill-wise. On the way there are 6 clams spitting out spikes. To open up the torpedo, I have to press a switch, which causes a ton of explosions, killing the 6 clams, so that's unfortunate. The next few rooms don't have any more torpedoes, but are pretty confusing to navigate. Eventually, I get to another torpedo part, but it doesn't have any enemies in it, and this leads directly into Happy Hour. During Happy Hour, there's another torpedo part, but there's yet again no enemies, so that's amazing. It doesn't take very long to get back to the exit door, but this one's a fake, and leads to an extra part of the level, but it's just a long hallway with some enemies, letting me drop down into the real exit and escape this stage with 6 kills. This then opens up another mini-boss, this one being the Tallbuster. The Tallbuster is incredibly easy to deal with. To hurt him, I have to hit the metal containers over his head to spill lava on him. He'll occasionally throw out some minions I have to avoid, but they're so sparse that it's not a problem. Just like the other bosses, The Tallbuster doesn't die after the fight, so it's time for the concrete jungle. The problematic things in the concrete jungle are a new enemy type and grind rails. Using grind rails propels me forwards and makes it easy to ram into enemies. The new enemy type is this fly, and like other enemies, it dies from just touching it. Pretty early on into the level, there is a fly in the way of a grind rail, so it looks like it's required to be killed. Thankfully, there's a second grind rail out of sight that I can jump to instead. In one specific room, there's an enemy obstructed by the foreground, so be careful not to kill it. A little while later into the level, I'm dropped into a falling segment where I have to avoid a bunch of flies. It's not horrible since the enemies are spread apart enough, but it was mildly concerning when I first found it. Not too much farther is another grind rail segment with flies. I have to flip between the bottom and the top to avoid a lot of them, but it's not too hard. The rest of the level is clear, even during happy hour, up until that one room with the enemy obscured by the foreground. Make sure not to kill them on the way out. The rest of the way doesn't have any annoying enemies, letting me leave with no kills. The next level is the Pinball Mire, and it starts very easily. The rooms are open and nothing blocks the way. Eventually I get to this cabin and have to push an 8-ball out of my way. I'm not sure how, but it's possible for the first ball to crush itself. The remaining 4 on the other hand, I had to crush myself. At the bottom, there are another 3 enemies, but they all blew themselves up, letting me move on. The rest of the stage is easy again until I get turned into a pinball. For obvious reasons, controlling a pinball to avoid tons of enemies is very difficult. Thankfully, since just touching an enemy can kill it, this counts towards the rules and I don't have to worry about these parts at all, letting me roll right into happy hour. Happy hour is some more pinball, so I could just play normally for a few minutes before getting out of the pinball. The rest of the stage is extremely straightforward, making this stage a complete joke. After finishing the Pinball Mire, I unlock the next boss, Freako Dragon. The first phase of Freako Dragon is super easy. He only summons 2 minions the entire fight, so I can just hit his head once he gets rid of them. The second phase is somehow even easier. He doesn't summon any minions, and the phase is over in less than a minute. The third phase is slightly more difficult. There are some minions I have to avoid killing, but I can just run past them and slam into Freako Dragon's body, getting rid of the minions and progressing the fight. Yet again, the boss doesn't die, so I have completed the West Wing and gain access to the top floor. This time there isn't a health upgrade available, so I have to move on with 4 health still. The first level on the top floor is the Mad Mall. Normally, you're dropped into this big open room and can go through all 4 routes while in a time limit to unlock the safe. This isn't an option though, since both the green and blue routes would require kills. Instead of doing that, I can just wait for the timer to expire. Yep, wait for the timer. Come on already. Once the timer expires completely, 1 lock is removed, so I have to wait for that 3 more times. After a while of waiting, the thief will break open the safe and happy hour will start. During happy hour, there is a spot where I have to slam through the floor, and this will cause me to land on some enemies. If I try to go right, I'll end up killing all 6 enemies, but if I go left, I'll kill 4, which is marginally better. Eventually I'll get onto a Segway, and since it kills enemies when they walk into me, this segment does not count towards the run, and lets me escape this stage with only 4 kills. This unlocks another mini-boss, being the Small Buster. The Small Buster will go into the background and build contraptions to attack me. Its first 2 weapons have nothing to do with minions, so they're unchanged from normal gameplay. The third phase on the other hand is way harder. The Small Buster will create a cannon and shoot a ton of projectiles at me. Some of these are just standard things to shoot, and some are enemies. By the time the attack ends, the entire screen is full of enemies that I have to jump on, over and around. I have to be careful to not hit the enemies while dealing with the Small Buster, but if I'm careful, it's fine. This unlocks the next level, the Crimson Factory. The level starts pretty easily. There are some new explosive enemies, but they don't explode unless I hit them. There's also another enemy that shoots explosive enemies, but I can just avoid them. Not too far into the level, a new ability is introduced, the Jetpack. The hitbox for the Jetpack is surprisingly large, making it very easy to accidentally kill enemies. The first jetpack segment is a bit hard to avoid some enemies, but it's possible to go around them all. The same can't be said about the second jetpack segment immediately after the first. I usually go down into the fire to avoid the enemies in the first part and take a little damage. But in one hallway there are two moles really close together, and I can't get past them without killing at least one. It's a real shame because that's also right when the jetpack segment ends. There's another jetpack section after this, but I can take some damage to avoid some more enemies, so no kills here. After this is a really long break with some standard platforming again, but all good things must come to an end. There's another jetpack segment. I can avoid some more enemies by taking more damage, but it's difficult to avoid some of them. I can bonk into walls to go backwards a little bit, making some of the timings a little bit easier, and this eventually leads back to standard platforming, which then leads into the final jetpack part before happy hour, but there aren't any enemies in it. This finally leads into happy hour, and I'm getting chased by Mecha Satan. His aim is absolutely horrible though, so I could just run through the rooms. The first three rooms have absolutely no enemies other than Mecha Satan, so they're no different than a regular playthrough. The final room has another jetpack though, with a ton of planes. I have to weave through the planes and occasionally go into the fire to avoid them. If I mess up though, I have to redo the entirety of happy hour again. This isn't the worst, since this is a pretty short happy hour, being only 2 minutes long, but there's still about a minute of gameplay to retry this part every time. This leads straight to the exit, and lets me beat this stage with only a single kill. This then opens up the final mini-boss, the Mallbuster. The Mallbuster hangs out in the background, and summons a ton of minions to attack me. If I avoid getting hit for long enough, the crowd will throw tomatoes at the Mallbuster and make him angrier. As long as I'm careful and don't get hit too much, the Mallbuster will slowly lose its temper and start volleying a giant tomato. For some reason, there weren't any enemies once the volley started, so I could focus entirely on finishing the fight. This opens up the next level, the Mysterious Glass House. There's a new enemy here, which is a big cloud. When I get hit by it, I get the angel transformation and start flying straight up, which usually destroys the cloud. The cloud will reform after a few seconds though, so this doesn't matter. The level goes very well for a while until I get to some bounce pads. I'm required to use these to get up to the next area, but in the way is a single fly, so that's one kill for the stage so far. The rest of the level is pretty easy until this water section. There's a switch with a fly above it, and I need to press the switch to continue. I can barely touch the switch without touching the fly, so it's just barely possible to not kill it. The rest of the stage is easy, including happy hour, letting me leave this with only one kill. This opens up the next boss, Ring-a-Ding. The first phase of this fight is pretty easy. There are two ways I can attack the boss. I can just attack the boss directly, or use the smaller bells to hit the boss. The only way to use the smaller bells though is if they die, which can only happen when they use one specific attack. Specifically the spinning attack where they charge into me. Once they miss, they'll die and I can use them to hurt the boss. The second phase is flying into the sky and chasing after Ring-a-Ding. All I have to do is dodge some lasers and make sure to not hit any silver bells. The third phase is even easier. All I do is plummet back towards the ground, and now the silver bells can't even be hit, so all I have to do is avoid the lasers and play the level normally. The fourth phase is the first phase to actually put up a problem. Ring-a-Ding will hang out in the background, so the only way I can hurt it is with dead bells, which means I can only hurt the boss when it uses one specific attack. That's not all though. Ring-a-Ding has an attack where 3 bells will spin around and create a big laser. To dodge this, you're supposed to bounce on some bells to go over and around it, but that's not an option because that'll kill the bells. I did find out very late into the fight that it's possible to jump through the bells and take no damage, but I didn't know that for a while. After a while of slowly beating up the boss with bells, I can return to Brulo's bar. There's a new health upgrade available, but I can't afford it with my current amount of money. With the top floor fully completed, it's time to go to Hell's Waiting Room. The first level down here is the Deviled Gardens. The main idea of this level is that I have to do 3 tasks for this moon guy,
and if I do them, I can get my spirit and start happy hour. The first task is to fill the pool, but that's easy to do since there's hardly any enemies back there. The second task is to turn off Satan's music, but on the way up there, there's a statue in the way of some booster rings. I couldn't find a way to get up top without killing the statue, so that's one kill. After stopping the music, the final task is to break the clock, but to do that, I need to go through 3 small segments to finally be able to destroy the clock. The green and blue routes had no real problems, but the yellow route was not as nice. There's a cat riding an 8-ball, and I need to get it all the way to the right of the room. I can get the cat to crush every enemy for me, so I don't need to worry about that. Once I get the cat all the way to the right, I'm supposed to bounce off the 8-ball. Because of how small it is though, it's really easy to hit the cat while doing it though. I managed to get up top by getting the cat a little to the left and bouncing off the edge of the 8-ball. After this, I can return to the moon and start happy hour. Pretty early on into happy hour, I get to use a mech. When riding the mech, anything that touches me will die, so this doesn't count towards the kill count total. If I shoot something on the other hand, that does count. It's not very difficult to avoid accidentally shooting enemies, so I leave the Deviled Gardens with 1 kill, and move on to the final level, Hell Manor. Before going to Hell Manor though, there are 2 things I'm going to buy at Brulow's shop. First, I buy the maximum health upgrade, putting me at a maximum of 5 health. The second thing I bought was the happy hour time clock, which adds 1 extra minute of time on the next level I play during happy hour. Hell Manor starts the level on happy hour, and only has a single checkpoint in the entire level, about 1/3 of the way through the level. This level also reuses almost every gimmick from the previous levels. This means I have to ride the shark again from Slow Roast Sewers. This area doesn't have any enemies in it, until the very end where a single Jewel Ghoul minion is, which I can't avoid killing. The next part is a tornado spin, but if I jump into the mines, I can use the extra land to jump over the enemies more easily. Immediately after this room is a few more required kills. After moving over an 8-ball, I have to kill 2 planes to get to a higher up platform, then kill 1 more to reach a faucet to turn on the water. The water lets me swim over to the exit and carry on with the level. After another platforming room, I get the only checkpoint. The next room is several battle arenas, and I can't progress unless all of the enemies die. The first room has some enemies that shoot explosives, so they blow themselves up. In the second arena, the 8-ball cat can kill 2 enemies for me, but I have to kill the cat. Then the next arena has 4 kills. The fourth arena has 3 bombs and 3 bells. I can ignite 1 bomb and use it to kill the other 2, adding only 1 kill for that. I have to kill the 3 bells myself though. The final arena has 5 more kills. After that, I have to chase a trash goblin that has a switch, but it'll run into some explosives, letting me move on without killing it. The next several rooms are pretty easy, and then there's a pinball segment. Since pinball doesn't count towards the kill count, those 2 rooms don't count towards anything. The next room is really difficult though. Lava slowly comes down from the ceiling, and I have to run through without dashing, since I don't want to kill any of the moles. I tried this for a while with 4 health before I remembered I could get the extra health upgrade, and managed to beat the room with a single health left. After that, there's a fake exit that leads to a mech segment, so that's not very important. This then leads to one last long platforming section, but part of the way has a sliding segment, and after is a mole on a small platform. There isn't enough room after the slide to avoid killing the mole, so that's one last kill. After this is one last jetpack segment with no enemies, letting me leave this stage with a whopping 19 kills. With every level completed, I have collected all 19 of Anton's spirits, and it's time to fight the devil. Upon my arrival to Satan's throne, he steals all of Anton's spirits, and uses them to increase his power for the final fight. The first phase of the Satan fight has no minions, so it's no different from a normal playthrough. After beating up Satan for a while, he runs away, and I have to chase after him. This part isn't actually timed, despite it being a chase, so I can go through this room as slowly as I want. I have to go slowly and carefully to avoid killing enemies, but it's not too hard to avoid killing them. After catching Satan, he transforms and starts chasing me instead. Unlike the last time, this section is very much timed, since I need to escape Satan. Part of the way through, there's an 8-ball, but I can ignore it to avoid killing a mole. At the very end is a hallway full of moles, but if I get hit by Satan, he'll launch me over them all and I can escape. After that chase, I'm caught by Satan, and he steals all of my redness before throwing me away. The 19 spirits come and grant Anton tremendous power, and Anton returns back to Satan. After very quickly killing Jewel Ghoul, Frigo Dragon, and Ring-a-Ding, the moles come back and destroy the floor. They blow themselves up as we all fall, and the final phase starts against Giga Satan. This fight doesn't actually have any minions I can kill, so I can just beat him up normally and beat the game. With the devil defeated, he decides to blow up the entirety of hell. Anton and Annie escape back to their apartment and can finally relax. Now, of course, it's time for the kill count. Slow-Ro Sewers had 10 kills, the Big Bath had 6, Pinball Meyer had 4 kills, the Mad Mall also had 4 kills, Crimson Factory, the Mysterious Glass House, and the Deviled Gardens all had 1 kill each. Hell Manor had 19 kills, and the Satan Fight had 3 kills, adding up to a grand total of 49 kills. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, it would help a lot if you would like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Hey. It's me. So, because I had to suffer through waiting for this 10-minute timer multiple times, even, you have to do it with me now. You're lucky, though. You only have to do it once. I had to do it 3 times, I think? Might have been 4. I don't remember. So, yep. Here we are. waiting. I'm sorry it's been a little while since I uploaded. I've been a little busy with school. I've also been procrastinating a lot. I know I shouldn't. I know I should stay on top of my work and whatnot, but I don't know. Sometimes it's hard. I have a few really cool video ideas that I'm hoping to get out soon. I still haven't been able to work on the Brothership video in a while. My computer isn't nearly strong enough to run it. Which is funny because it's a Nintendo Switch game, which are usually pretty easy to run. I guess that just goes to show how underpowered my PC is currently. I need to get on top of that. I think the Brothership run will be really fun once I can actually do it, though. I've already routed out the entire thing and wrote most of the script for it. It's just, I need to actually do it. I also have 2 Pizza Tower video ideas. One of them is... Nah, I'm not gonna spoil it. I'm gonna keep that a secret. I should get those out in maybe a month or 2? I don't know. I also have a April Fool's video that I really think is funny. But I can't say what it is because that'll ruin the surprise. You know? Yeah, I don't even know what I'm trying to say. I'm rambling. Which, I mean, is kind of the whole point. This is the whole joke. I ramble for about 10 minutes because I can't think of an actually good joke. God. I hate the spring. Allergies and whatnot. It always sucks. It's not very fun. You might have noticed that that my voice got a lot worse halfway through the video. Well, I want to say closer to 2/3 through the video, but yeah, probably close to halfway. That's because spring started and allergies started kicking in, so that wasn't very fun. Summer is just as bad as spring, though. It's just uncomfortably hot constantly. Hate the spring. I mean summer. I really love the fall and winter, though. Fall is a nice, cool temperature, and it's the start of the holidays. I'm not the biggest fan of Thanksgiving. It always feels like something happens on Thanksgiving that I wish didn't happen, but The winter is great. It's really cold, and I just love how cold it is. And if it gets too cold, I just throw on an extra layer of clothes. It's nice. What else can I talk about? I've never been good at talking. I've just... No, back when I first started my first video, I would take 10 attempts to record a single line of audio, or a single paragraph, because I split... When I record these, I split them up into paragraphs. So I have... So back when I first started, I'd read a single paragraph at a time, and I hated how I sounded. So I would record like 10 lines in a row, and only use one of them because I only liked that one. I've gotten to a point where I can read 2 to 3 paragraphs at a time now, and I actually can get it done in like 2 to 3 attempts instead of 10. So it makes recording these a fair bit easier. I did have to get used to it again for this video since it's been a while since I recorded, but yeah. My sleep schedule has been kind of out of whack. Cannot talk. My sleep schedule has been out of whack recently. I keep waking up at like 3, 4 a.m. and I don't know why. It doesn't help that I don't get to sleep until like 11 or 12 at night. So yeah. And then I have to get up at 7:30 for school. That's always fun. I don't know. It's always fun to make these videos, but editing and scripting is not nearly as fun. Which, I mean, that's just what you have to do for making videos. Do parts that you're not the biggest fan of, but I don't know. I hate recording my voice. Never was the biggest fan of it in the first place. Scripting isn't too bad. Usually in school I have a lot of free time between classes, so I'll just script it then. And yeah. What? I fucking hate allergies. They fucking suck. I was talking about... Oh yeah, scripting. I usually script my videos in a very short amount of time. I think I can script most of them in like 5 days, tops. It just depends on the video though. Some videos take less time to script than others. Brothership took me weeks to script when I was scripting it. I really... I don't know. Oh. Looks like our time's up. I'll see you next time.